Hello everyone, and welcome back to my comfy corner where I talk about things that make me comfy and cozy so I can stop bothering the people around me. And today, girlies, you're not looking or reading this wrong. This is actually part 6 of my TXT lore breakdown. Surprise! By the time you're watching this, my birthday has already passed. And also I am still recording this. This is the same day. This is still Hunankai's birthday. Again, happy birthday, Hunankai. But I decided to do a double feature for you all. Not only because I love surprises and I love the drama. Honestly, this arc would be called the drama arc if I haven't already called it the drama arc. I'll call this arc the star arc. And the girlies that get it will get it soon enough. So yeah, I decided to do another part and release it on the same day to surprise you guys, but also I really wanted to get this part off my chest. I could not wait. And I didn't want to wait for you guys either, because the way that I left that cliffhanger last time, and also I'm gonna like, you guys are gonna love this arc. But for those who are seeing my face for the first time and have not seen my face before, hello, welcome. Also, girly stop, girly pause, girly think, girly twirl, shimmy, and dance your way back to my first part where I talk about the beginning intro to this, because honestly I don't think that you can keep up, baby girl. You're gonna lose your breath. Okay, so go back to my part 1, or if you would like to sit for an hour and some change before watching this, you can go to my lore breakdown without the songs used as an explanation, so that way you're caught up in the lore that I have crafted based off of the songs and also the TXT lore music videos that have in place. And with that being said, I will be giving a small recap for those that did not hear my warning, but also need a quick refresher, even though if editor Tiana did this right, this should be releasing right after the first video drops. So with that being said, let's get into recap Tiana. Alright, recap Tiana here, and if you see me looking down over here or over there, remember I either have my notebook or my iPad for supplementary stuff to be put in here. So we had left off last time with the boys going deeper and deeper in the rabbit hole. Remember, there are different levels to the cat's world, so they're going deeper and deeper into islands to the point where they don't even remember where they are anymore. Like, they are just sort of going through these islands like crazy, and the cat has been concocting more and more complex places for them to land and be in. And at the end of the last part, the boys are not only upset at each other and sort of, combative with each other, but also they're missing Magic Island, they're missing Promise, even though they don't remember the Promise right now. Remember, Promise is still sleeping. This is what Magic Island looks like when the Promise isn't met. And they're missing reality. They're missing out on life events that they wish that they could be doing. So Tay Tay, at the end of the last part, was able to convince the boys, hey, maybe there's a way to get back to Magic Island and get back to the way things used to be. And the boys are on board. But remember, Yeonjun is like faking being on board, but is sort of convinced to go along with it, because Tay Tay's like, hey, if we could do this for Magic Island, maybe we could do this for you and your world. Because remember, he burned his world, so the main reason why he's been trapping the boys here is because if the boys leave, then he has nothing to go back to whenever he falls asleep. He's not a trust fund baby, everybody else is. And so, yeah, that's where we left off. And then that's when the boys were like, you know what, yeah, let's go, dear Sputnik. Now, what I failed to mention about all of that is there was a secret that I held out, and I will be talking about it in the next song. Okay, so like I said before in my other part, in part 5, I'll be playing with similar slimes, and since I'm recording this on the same day, again, they're going to be the same slimes. I have a couple of other ones, but I will be playing with Peachybbies sorbet, just because it's really nice and I like it. This is from Momo Slimes. Anyways, the first song that we'll be talking about is Can't You See Me? And Can't You See Me? Oh my god, I love Can't You See Me. Don't play with me. So I know what some of you girlies may be thinking if you're a part of the TXT fandom. Tiana, that doesn't make any sense. Why is Can't You See Me here if this is the boys, at their home? Remember the house? You said whenever we see the house, that's most likely reality. Blue, 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 blurb. Well, girlies, I know, but hear me out. So the secret that I didn't mention before is, remember the cat's always lurking. I don't know where my cat plushie is. That's why I'm not showing you girlies. I don't know where cat has went to. Maybe it's in my dream world right now. Anyways, the cat is actively listening to their plans. Like when they sung Dear Sputnik and they did their war song to get out, it's not like the cat was just asleep at that time. The cat is actively watching the boys and manipulating the boys so that the cat could also stay with them as well. So when the boys were like, yeah, remember reality, remember all of that, the cat made a new island that mimicked their reality. And we will see that in these next couple of songs as well. I'm really gonna blow your minds with this arc. Honestly, where is my award? I will take it in the mail if I have to. So back to Can't You See Me? Can't You See Me is the boys in a reality that looks like they're in reality. They're still in dream world. And the way that I know it is because of the visuals of it, but also I was racking with myself of like, what is the purpose of the visuals? But what is the purpose with the visuals with the songs? Because yeah, the boys are mad at each other. They're blaming each other for the situation that they're in. I believe Bungyu, one of the boys, ends up trying to like strangle the other because of how mad they are. I'll probably have the correction up here. But yeah, it is not looking great, besties. That music video is great, by the way. But in the music video, they're in the house, they're playing together, and then they realize like, oh, this isn't fun. And they start blaming each other on the situation why they're in there. And I think this is just sort of a highlight of what happened when they decided to break the rules. They decided to play in this world forever. They decided, hey, this isn't it anymore. And then they started the blame game. They started throwing spaghetti at each other, and it looks like a bloody mess in the fire, right? Because remember, they're kicked out of Magic Island. They can't get back. But then I thought, well, why is it called Can't You See Me? Is it because they feel like the boys feel like the other boys don't understand what they're talking about? But then that doesn't make sense. And what about that song breakdown at the end where it's like, can't you see me? Can't you see me? Friends don't understand me anymore. Friends don't understand me anymore. Like when that oven scene happened, I'm like, who are you talking to, Yeonjun? Like, who? First off, where did this deep voice come from? Let's start there. You have a lot of bass in your voice for being the main reason why the boys are in this in the first place. But then after sitting on it and after having my theory crafting tingling senses on, I realized the song isn't about the boys. It's about the star. What did I mention last part? If you girlies have not seen the last part, please do. What I mentioned in the last part is that Dear Sputnik was sort of a way to start waking the star up. It's not fully awake, but like it's starting to wake up to the point where it's like, I hear something. Like I hear something stirring, essentially. So I think after Dear Sputnik happened, the star sort of sees from afar what's happening, and it's like, can y'all not see me? Can you guys not hear me? Like, do you guys not remember me? And when you think about it that way, Can't You See Me is so much more metal and cooler, because imagine all of the boys doing all of this and being mad that they can't get back to Magic Island. Tay-Tay's the most upset because remember, he was dragged into this. Yeonjun is the least upset because he wanted this to happen in the first place. And you just have the star, which, remember us, we're the promise is us, we're Moa, we're the star, get it, sort of seeing their downfall and seeing their conflict and seeing them get mad at each other. And this goes against what the promise is about and what the star is about. So it's like, can you guys not see me? Like, you guys know that you could come back. Like, the door is open, right? Like, do you not remember the song that I imparted you guys to get to wake me up fully, to like use my power? None of that. Y'all just forgot. So that's essentially what Can't You See Me is about. I love that for the star, by the way. To just be like, so like, imagine if you watched Amazing World of Gumball. Okay, this is gonna be a decut. I'm not gonna mention Amazing World of Gumball, but like, essentially imagine it being like a parent that's looking at their child fall off the bike for the first time, and they're like crying and they think the world is like ending, and the parent's like, can't you see I'm right here with you? Like, hello, like, we could get back on the bike. It's not that big of a deal. But like, for them it's a big deal because they can't see or hear the star. I know that you're Pastor Gasping, but like, it's okay. It's okay. I take monetary donations, by the way. I'm joking. So yeah, that is Can't You See Me? So we will get into the next song. Okay, so this next song, Fairy in the Shampoo, I believe is the main title of it, is again essentially like the fairy being like, hey, girly pops, I'm here. Can't you see me? Can't you see that I'm here? I'm alive and well. I'm just taking a nap because you guys aren't fulfilling the promise right now. That's essentially Fairy and Shampoo, but the other undertone of it is like the voice being like, man, I wish there was something that could like help us get out of this situation. Like a fairy in a bottle, like a star in the sky. Like that's essentially this is so funny. Like I know it shouldn't be funny because of like how serious the boys are going through shit right now. And like again, remember the cat has essentially put them in reality, so that way it sort of makes them want to stay and like has mimicked what their real world looks like. And we'll get into why that's important in the next two songs, trust me. But essentially like the star is like, hello, and they're like, man, you know what I could go for right now? A star that can magically get me out of this situation that I'm in. Like that's essentially what's going on. Another thing to note, I know what you're probably thinking, Tiana, if the star is talking to them, why isn't Subin hearing it? Remember, their powers are reduced because the promise hasn't been fulfilled again, but also the steps to get the promise back awake again has not been fulfilled. So even though the star is saying and doing all of this, think of it like this. The star is napping. The star is Hongshu asleep, but it's still ruling over its magic island. So in a way, it's like a mix of asleep and awake at the same time. Does that make sense? Like, just because it's asleep does not mean that it's not alive and well and probably seeing what's happening with the boys. But it being asleep / napping means that it still can't help the boys right now, but it can later. I'll explain more what I mean in like the next couple of parts / when we get towards the end of this part, and I will leave you on a cliffhanger this time, but I promise I'm not gonna do a surprise upload. But yeah, just know that when I say the star is napping, that does not mean that its powers aren't there. It's just not able to help the boys right now, but also that does not mean it's not actively seeing what's happening. Yeah, I'll explain later if you're still confused, but just know for now that's what Fairy and Shampoo is. I think it's very funny in terms of this lore wise, where it's just like, man, I would love for just $1 million to just fall right out of the sky. That's essentially what's happening. Okay, I will be playing with Peachybbies Moon Jelly for this, and this next song is Deja Vu. Oh my god. Okay, now we're getting into it. Honestly, I'll call this the Deja Vu arc. Yeah, I'll call this the Deja Vu arc. Basically what's happening now, after Can't You See Me and Fairy of Shampoo, where the star's like, oh, you really forgot about me. That's crazy. You did not remember the like imparting song that I gave you guys? Like, isn't that wild? Maybe you should remember me a little bit. So I think giving my story some leeways and liberties, because again, this is my story, who's gonna stop being with me? I think at this point, since the star does a good job astral projecting themselves, I think they give a little bit of a hint and a nudge, where essentially they're singing the lullaby or the song that they impart to the boys before they broke the promise and everything happened. That is a hint onto how to get back home, which we will talk about in part 7, and I will go more in depth in part 7 about. But just know that before the star went to its nap, anytime the star is about to take its nap, it sings a song, and this song is the instructions on how to wake the star back up. So essentially that's happening, but also as the boys are in reality, because remember the cat put them back into their reality in big air quotes, so that way the cat's like, see, I can give you reality if you want, like stay here. They sort of feel like as they're trying to figure out a way to get back to Magic Island that they've been here before, like they've done this before, like there was a way to get back to Magic Island, and that maybe they were together when they were boys, and then they forgot, and then they came back. So that's what essentially deja vu is, where it's like, damn, this has happened before, where we broke the promise and we forgot the promise and we had to get back. And I love that for them to be singing about it, but still not like recognizing that they're like, I feel like I'm supposed to say something. No, we're supposed to do something. No. Wasn't there somebody we were supposed to talk to? And I don't know why Tay isn't more in tune, and why Subin couldn't hear the star at this moment. But again, I don't think that it was loud enough for Subin to hear. But also Subin doesn't have his full 100% power, so it's like sort of there and sort of not. But anyway, that's them having like their deja vu moment where they're just like, damn, we've been through this before. And I can't put my finger on how or why, but they feel more encouraged that they're going on the right track. So while they're in this reality, in this fake reality, right? Because again, they're not awake. They're still asleep, but the cat is making everything look like what they had in reality. They're like, let's retrace our steps. Like, let's go back into what we remember. Like, let's go back to where we met. Let's go back into how we met. Let's figure it out. There must be some sort of clue or riddle here. And the reason why I mentioned this is because this next song is going to blow your minds. I'm still playing with Moon Jelly. I sort of breezed past Deja Vu, mainly because it's sort of just saying like, hey, we remember doing this before. We can't put our finger on it, but we feel like we're on the right track. Let's just go back to doing whatever we did. Like, let's go back to where we met. Let's go back and recreate everything that has happened up until this point. And I say that all to say, this song is 9 3/4. Yeah, I'm gonna let it sink in. For the girlies that get it, they're shocked. The girlies that don't are confused on why I'm being so dramatic. So let me explain for all the people in the back. 9 3/4 is not only one of TXT's biggest songs, but also one of TXT's biggest music videos, and has always been a linchpin for the lore. So when I say that TXT's 9 3/4 is in part 6, meaning that everything that happens in 9 3/4 is not only when they're asleep, but them being asleep in the cat's island, I'm gonna ruffle a few feathers. So let me explain myself. Girly, put the pitchfork down. So the reason why I'm so certain that 9 3/4 has to happen not only while they're in Dream World, but has to happen after they have broken the promise is, one, they're actively trying to find a way to get back to Magic Island, right? That means to me that they have already broken the promise. At the end of the music video, they're standing in front of a flaming door. That to me doesn't feel like, oh, 9 3/4 is ominous, like this is basically saying what the boys are going to get into. No, this has already happened. Also, all of the stuff that they get into while they're in this classroom tells me that they're not in reality. Like, how are they able to make a door from the chalkboard, right? Like, how do they know that they have that magic? And remember, when magic happened, they were asleep and they were celebrating in Magic Island. So to me, all of this means that this has to have happened after they broke the promise, and this has to happen while they're asleep. So if they're not only dreaming, and this isn't reality based off of what we're seeing in 9 3/4, but also they have already broken their promise, where else would it be in this timeline? Because they weren't successful into getting into Magic Island. So this isn't after they figured out how to get back. This can't be after, this can't be before they found out about the star and the promise was like, can't you see me? This can't be before then, because then why are they feeling like they lost the summer if they're chasing the summer, right? So I say that all to say 9 3/4 has to have happened at least someplace in part 6, and could not have happened any time before, because one, The boys would not be actively looking for Magic Island because they would already be there. This couldn't have happened on Magic Island because what is the point of the flaming door? Also, remember when I said Bomgyu is going to be important in explaining myself in this, like before? You remember when Yeonjun, right? When he had the book and he was flipping through the book and he got a cut? I know that's a nod for it to be reality, but remember, the cat is actively watching everything that happened. So he probably gave that paper cut to him because he was like, you're probably going to find or remember something dealing with the star in this book, which is why he gave him a cut. But Bomgyu gave him a band-aid, and that band-aid instantly healed him, meaning that we're still in Dream World, which again proves my point that it has to be after they have broken the promise, but they still have to be in the dream world. I know. It just keep getting juicier and juicier. But if that's true, Tiana, if what you're saying is true, and they're still in dream world, but the cat has the ability to hurt people, but Bumgyu still has the power to heal, then why would the cat want to hurt Yeonjun out of all people? Why not Tay-Tay? Why not Hyun Kai? Or why not Subin? Or why his favorite person? And to that I say, I feel like Yeonjun's the easiest to hurt because we have known the cat to sort of mess with Yeonjun and show him things that he shouldn't. But also, I feel like if I were the cat and I had to choose someone to mess with the most to sort of make them want to stay and tell them that like their efforts are futile to stop them from like remembering the star, my number one draft pick would be Yeonjun because he's the main reason why they're down here in the first place. So yeah, duh, I'm gonna mess with him first. Hello? So yeah, that is 9 3/4. It's them actively trying to escape and them trying to remember what they did previously. Remember Deja Vu. They remember they've gone through this before. And them being very unsuccessful. They learned how to make doors. I think that's based off of Tay-Tay. Because remember, again, he's Raven Simone, see into the future, but also he's been the most inclined to try to figure out a way to get out. And you also see that in the music video as well. But another thing to note in this is, even though they're making doors to try to get to the next island, or to get to Magic Island specifically, Yeonjun still has his power. Or not Yeonjun. Wingy Boy still has his power. And this becomes important later, and I want you guys to just keep that in because I'll talk about it in the next song. But the way I'm so certain that Hyun Kai has his power is again because of Bumgyu. Y'all thought that he wouldn't be important. My baby boy haven't had Porcupine Boy is back. He's important in solidifying how I know that the boys still have some sort of power in their dream world, even though the cat's ruling. But also, I'm positive that Hyun Kai knows what's happening and he has the power to escape if he really wanted to, but doesn't because, again, he doesn't want to abandon the boys, but also he low-key doesn't want to leave. And we'll get to that in the next song. All right, editor's note. Sorry, I don't know how I forgot to mention this for Can't You See Me. So before we get into the next song, I have to note this as well. The way I'm so certain that Yeonjun isn't really fully on track with all of this, especially in Can't You See Me, is what got me confused is like, why would Yeonjun do more to the oven and look at us, the audience? Now remember, we are the star is us, we are the promise, that's what MOAs are about, okay? And the song, if the song is about the star being like, can't you see me? And the only time that we are referred to and seen and referenced in Can't You See Me and when we are seen is when Yeonjun tells us to shush and closes the oven, which starts the fire, means to me that Yeonjun low-key knows how to get out, or at least knows the steps and like remembers the promise at this point, but he doesn't want to tell the rest of the boys because I think that Yeonjun thinks that if he can convince the boys that there's no way to get back to Magic Island, they could still stay, which is really crazy. But also, is he the drama of the season? He's the drama of the lifetime, honestly. That is very iconic of you. That was a very iconic scene. So I also want to put that out there in the atmosphere on why I'm so certain that not only does Yeonjun already remember the promise and he's just going along with it, but the fact that he is not really sold on returning back to reality, and he's just appeasing the masses right now. But I think he's also hoping that if he keeps ignoring the promise, if they don't remember the promise and how to wake up the promise fully to save them, then they could stay where they're at, which is also really crazy. Yeonjun, you can't keep getting away with this. I still love you, but like, come on. And with that, now that I added in that editor's spark notes in, let's truly get into the next song. Okay. This song is Chasing That Feeling, and it also comes with a music video, girly. I don't even need to look to my left or right because I basically have this music video memorized, and I will get through it with you, still playing with Moon Jelly. So now after the cat realizes Dang probably making them get back to reality and let them go to their school and let them sort of relive what it was like there wasn't a good move because they're starting to remember the promise. Even though they had failed attempts in 9 3/4, they were still getting close enough to getting to Magic Island where the cat felt threatened. I.e., remember where Yeonjun got that paper cut and Bumgyu had to heal? Maybe there's something in that book that would like trigger their memory about their promise and their star, right? So after doing so, the cat comes up with their most complex structure yet. He's like, okay, they want to have something reality based. They want to be in reality, but I can't have them be like, I can't have them access their previous memories or give them a clue. So Chasing That Feeling is set in New York, which is the most complex place because it is not only winding and it not only sort of separates the boys to where they could go on their own adventures. I think the cat was going to plan on dividing and conquering. But the boys are still chasing that feeling regardless. So even though the cat sort of made them fall into this big complex city, and again I keep emphasizing it because remember where we started off with and now look at where we are now. Like, this has to be the cat's doing, and it's purposeful because why would you make them be in this city? Like, we haven't seen them in New York before, right? So they're chasing that feeling, and the feeling is like, we need to remember something. There has to be some way. Like, I am chasing the feeling that I've been here before. But you know what's really cool? You know what's really fun and quirky? Even Yeonjun's chasing that feeling. But you know who isn't chasing an orb in that music video? 1, 2, 3, ready? Winky Boy. Why isn't Winky Boy chasing the feeling, Tiana? Why isn't he doing that? Doesn't he want to go back home like the rest? And even though you've been hammering that this boy knows more than he's supposed to, isn't it really weird and quirky that out of all the boys, he's the only one not chasing that feeling? That's because he already knows. Even though I have told you last couple of songs that Yeonjun knows the star and the promise and how to get back, he's just actively not telling the boys. I think that he just remembers the star. I don't think he actively remembers the steps and how to do it. Winky Boy actively remembers, and you know how I know why? 1, he has the ability to leave anytime he wanted to. So at any point in time, he could have gone to Magic Island. And I think that he probably did, just for shits and giggles, just to spin the block. Honestly, pop off king. But also the other reason why I know that he's not chasing that feeling is because there's other instances where Hyun Kai's not really feeling it. Hyun Kai's not really a part of the team in the group. He's not the cheer squad captain, okay? So this music video solidified to me that not only does Hyun Kai remember the promise, and we'll get to it when I mention the concert visuals. I know that's not fair to mention concert visuals because technically the girlies that weren't able to see it and pay for it won't understand, but trust me, I'll get to it when I get to it in the next couple of parts. But it makes sense that he not only remembers the promise, but he remembers how to do it and isn't in turn chasing that feeling. Because why else wouldn't he be chasing it? If Hyun Kai's such a good boy and he's been on everybody else's side, especially the other boys who want to get back home, wouldn't he want to chase the feeling? Wouldn't he want to remember? Wouldn't he want to reminisce? But then it also made me think, well, Tiana, in my lore, Hyun Kai was the only one that remembered the promise the first time. So why wouldn't he remember it the second time? Right? Are you with me? Are the gears turning? Are you realizing that Winky Boy knows more than what he lets on, and he's actually very crucial to like the drama of it all? So yeah, that is chasing that feeling, keep in the back of your mind and pocket about Hyun and Kai remembering what happens, because it will become important later in terms of tea and drama. But yeah. Okay, I'm gonna fly through these next couple of songs just because they sort of reinforce the same things. This is now like the come down of it all. So I will be talking about Dreamer. Now, Dreamer is them finally realizing what they are and who they are, which is dreamers. And I've already explained this. They have the ability to live in reality, but also live in the dream world and control and manipulate and have the powers and whatever, right? But in Dreamers, what do they mention in there? We're wishing upon stars. We're dreamers. There's something dealing with a star. That's right, Tiana. They are all starting to remember the promise. Woo! Aside from Hyun and Kai, because he already remembers it, and also aside from Yeonjun, because it's not that he doesn't remember the promise, he probably doesn't remember everything, like all the steps needed to wake up the promise, which is why he was chasing that feeling instead of Hyun and Kai. But Hyun and Kai remembers everything. He's just not saying anything, right? So that's what Dreamers is about. It's the boys sort of remembering who they are and what strengths they have as individuals, but also as a group, and singing about it, and while also remembering the star, which is really great. Love the song. 10 out of 10 song. You guys should listen. And that is Dreamer. Okay, so next song is Skipping Stones, and I'm still playing with the Moon Jelly. So I know what you're thinking, Tiana. If you said last song with Dreamer, they remember the promise and they also now remember the steps to wake up the star, so that way they could get back to Magic Island and subsequently get back to reality and live in that duality happily ever after. Why is there so many more parts after this? Well, like I told you, this is a coming of age story. And what isn't a good coming of age story but to have some more conflict and drama between the boys? So even though the boys now remember the promise, albeit they sort of staggered remember during Dreamer, Subin was the first, then it was Yeonjun, then it was Tay, then Bumgyu. Hyun and Kai was last. Remember, Hyun and Kai's last because he already knew it. Surprise, surprise, shocker, shocker. And how I know this is based off of the concert's visuals of Act Sweet Mirage. And I know it's somewhat cheating because using the concert's visuals as sort of a supplement to what my story is, and I can't really show you what I'm talking about. I may or may not. It depends. But anywho's, in the visuals for the recent concert, that was the order in which they got hit with the star. It was like a whole space scene. It was really great. The girlies that saw it. The girlies didn't. I'm sorry. But yeah, so anyways, Skipping Stones is about them, even though they now know the promise and how to do it. Skipping Stones is them being like, do I even want to go back? Like, now that I know how to do it, like now that we effectively know the steps to do it, do we even want to go back? Like, what is it worth? And they start lamenting about that. Is now the time to leave? Like, that's essentially what Skipping Stones vibes is. The boys sort of being like, I know that this is what we really wanted, but are we sure? Of course, this doesn't help Yeonjun being like, are we sure? I imagine he's sort of the reason for these next couple of songs of sort of the indecisiveness that's going on. But they're sort of like, man, what do we do? What do we do? What should we do? Should we go forward with it? Of course, Tay, again, I imagine in all of this is sort of like, yeah, we know, let's go. But the boys are a little bit hesitant about it. So that's essentially Skipping Stones. Okay, so the next song is Growing Pains. And like I said, they're still figuring out what they should do, but at this point they're realizing that they're getting a little bit more mature. Like, even though they were stuck in this sort of hellscape where they were trapped for eternity in never-ending dreamlands that they themselves couldn't control because of the cat, they realize that in that they do want to grow old, that they do want to experience certain things that reality is able to give them, even if it means, you know, you have to have a little pain with that. And so Growing Pains is such a beautiful song. It explores that with each of them and their realization. Not Yeonjun though, remember, he's still stuck on low-key, we could just stay here even though we know, now that we know, but like, let's just still chill here because I still want to have fun with you all, but I still want to stay here. And honestly, that's so destructive of Yeonjun, because really he could just let the rest of the boys go and just stay in Dream World by himself if he really wanted to, but he's also being really selfish and not really getting the message and memo. But don't worry, next parts are coming soon. So that is essentially Growing Pains. The boys are getting older, realizing that life is about the ups and downs and not just the ups, wanting to face the consequences. And that's a growing pain, right? That's realizing that you're different than where you first started this journey. And they are getting a little bit more mature in their thought process and what they want in life, right? So that is essentially Growing Pains. Okay, y'all. Last but certainly not least is Quarter Life Crisis. And the reason why Quarter Life Crisis is the end of this part is because, one, I was gonna leave y'all on a cliffhanger, but then I thought that wasn't fair. So I'll just end it in a nice little wrap up way of an arc. So Quarter Life Crisis, again, following what we did with Growing Pains. But remember when I was just like, ooh, I'll mention it when I mention it. So yeah, Quarter Life Crisis. They're having Quarter Life Crisis. They're realizing, like, what is life? Like, what would life mean for us now that everything went down? Has time progressed while we've been asleep this whole time? Have people been missing us? You know, like, are we gonna peak in high school? Like, that's sort of the things that are going on in their minds with Quarter Life Crisis. But they're like, you know what? Life will come as they go. By the end of this part and by the end of the song, they realize life is so much better spent alive and not trapped in a world where you can control and manage everything and, you know, take everything in stride and find the beauty in it all. La 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 la. You get it. You get the message at this point. And then, so by the end of this arc, all of the boys, again, aside from Yeonjun, and technically aside from Hyun and Kai, again, I'll get into it more for the next couple of parts, but everybody at this point now is on team Tay Tay, which is, let's get the flippin' dips out of here and let's go back home, which is Magic Island. And that is where I will end this part. Now, a couple of things to address. Tiana, how am I so sure that this is the order in which they remembered the promise for Dreamer, even without using the concert as evidence of it? And how did you know, and how did that justify you? So, I knew for a fact Subin had to be the first one to remember. Now, remember when I said that his power is actually more important than people think? Well, remember his power is super hearing, and remember that at this point, the star is trying to communicate, but no one can see them. So if you can't see them, what do? You make the song. And so I believe at this point, the star was singing the song that they will sing in the next part. I won't spoil which song. You girlies have to guess. Leave it in the comments if you have a guess of what the next song is for the first part, or for the next part, the first song. But yeah, Subin is the first, and it makes sense that he's the first to remember the promise in terms of the staggered order of operations, because he can hear. And so even though his super hearing is weakened, I imagine by this time, and remember, as the boys keep remembering more stuff about the star, I imagine the star is clearer to hear, especially for Subin. So it makes sense to me that he remembers. Also, I imagine that the star is probably singing the song that they will inevitably sing, and I keep hinting at it, but trust me, when we get to part 7, you'll understand. So it makes sense that he remembers. Now, why am I so certain that Yeonjun remembers? Well, remember, Yeonjun already had a head start. The only reason that I think that Yeonjun wasn't the first to remember, because again, Subin literally can hear the star talking to him at this point, so it makes more sense. Also, when we get to another song that we're going to talk about, it makes sense on why Subin and Yeonjun have their little moment, because they're gonna have a little moment, okay? And so it makes sense that Yeonju's next. Why wasn't Tay Tay next in this order of operations? Remember, Yeonjun remembered the promise. He just didn't remember the steps on how to do it. So he again had a head start. Tay Tay did not remember the star or the steps to get to it, even though he was actively searching for it, which leads me to think that Tay Tay is third. They probably were tied, if I'm going to call a spade a spade. They probably realized it at the same time. But Tay Tay's third. Again, he was actively searching for it. And then Bumkyu's last because my half and half sweet baby boy, porcupine baby boy, was sort of following what everybody else said, but I think that he was more focused on feeling guilty about being the reason why they're down there in the first place, more so than feeling like I need to figure out how to get out here. And then last but certainly not least is Hyun Kai. Like I said, he already remembered the promise, so it does not make sense to say that he was any order other than last. Again, I feel like he just hit it and was like, oh, now I remember, but he remembered the whole time. I've already gone into depth about that. Fun Easter egg to note. I will remove this from the wall for just a second. The reason why I purposely chose Star Seekers, for those who are new, these images and stuff are from Star Seekers. You should get the book. It is on Weverse. I am not sponsored, but I can be. Reason why I use this visual and Magic Island, this visual up here for Magic Island, is I think it's really cool to note this is not, Star Seekers is not from the main TXT universe lore. It is a webcomic. Again, you should check it out. But I love that they are all looking up at the star that is currently dormant. So for me and my headcanon and for my story of the lore, remember when I said that the star is still there and that the star is just sleeping and it's not as bright? I imagine the star is still up in space and you could still see it, which is another take onto why I think Hyun Kai always knew the star existed there, because he could just fly to the star and he could always just see the star whenever he goes. So he probably would put two and two together. But I love the visual of Dreamer, where as they're singing the song and they're talking about stars, they decide to look up. And I love that for them, because throughout all of this trial and tribulation, them getting trapped in the worlds, them playing the cat's game, if you will, for these past couple of songs and parts, I love I love the mental visual, and I love the story progression of them figuring out, like, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And then they think, look up. You know, giving very much so Hadestown if you listen to the soundtrack of Hadestown or watch Hadestown. The girlies are gonna get it. But I love that, because it's like the answer was in you all along, or the answer was so simple, all you had to do was look up. But how would they know to look up unless they remembered, or unless they chased the feeling, right? So I love that, and that's why the visual's there. I just wanted to note that because I want y'all to know that I really put some planning and some thought into this series. And I've been having fun with it. Tiana, how do I feel now that the boys have finally decided it's time to get up and go, do Sputnik style S level, and they have now grown and they realize that life is worth more to living? Yeonjun hasn't come into that realization yet. I will say at this point, Hyun Kai probably has, but also remember, again, he's just following what the boys want to do. Like, I think that he's just choosing whatever the common denominator is. So, like, if all of the boys feel like we should go back to reality, he's just gonna follow because, again, he doesn't want to be left behind. And, again, he technically is a trust fund baby, but remember, again, in a way, him having his own magic island, but also being able to traverse to other magic islands at will is a gift and a curse, because he has the misfortune of seeing others move on without him, and he probably doesn't want to feel that pain again. So how do you feel about the boys now? Great. It should not take a cat trapping you in a Alice in Wonderland-esque hellscape for you to come to this realization, but whatever works, besties, whatever works. And yeah, I think I addressed everything, but if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, about my story lore, and if I missed anything as I've been breaking down, please feel free to leave them in the comments. I do read them, I do respond. And if you have made it this far, thank you so much for making it this far. As you can see, I'm really passionate about this, and as a gift to you guys, I couldn't leave you hanging with part 5, so I decided to give you part 6. So if you would like to stay up to date on when I drop part 7, Or if you're interested in any of the other things that I have talked about, make sure you subscribe and leave a like as well. And with all of that being said, I'll see you in the next video.